taking that bump and kind of bumping it up a little bit. And although it didn't show immediately because then 2020 we were terrible and he broke his hand, you started to see in 2021 we were still terrible, but Steph was carrying us, and he carried us to a play-in game, and we didn't get past it. It was probably great because we would have got swept, and that would have been the first series we ever got swept, so thank God we didn't make it. But I think you started to see it then, that growth, and like, oh man, nobody can stop this dude now. And I think that really changed the complexity of our organization, and I'm pretty certain that's why we'll win 3 of the next 4 NBA championships.
Just casual. New media. I love it. He has an audience now. It's great. Chris Russo, I'm going to start with you on this one. How many more titles do you think that the Warriors can win?
First off, I didn't see that. Good things. We would have been swept. He was very honest there. And I gave Curry all the credit. So you like that from Draymond Green? I don't see 3 or 4. Let's take it one step at a time. So when you have that kind of championship, I can't sit there and say you're going to win 3 or 4 more.
You make a great point in terms of, Chris, when it comes to things breaking right for them, but I'm not going to punish the Golden State Warriors because you don't feel sorry for teams that can't live up to that grind. And that's not to say that Memphis wasn't a good enough team. We'll never know. But Ja Morant definitely would have made a difference in that series. There's no doubt about that. But I'm with you in terms of 3 out of 4. It's impossible. People don't realize how hard it is to win a playoff series in any sport. I don't care if it's the Stanley Cup. I don't care if it's the NBA. I don't care if it's Major League Baseball. It's hard to win one championship. And the fact that this team was able to get back to that mountaintop says a lot for them. But Father Time is undefeated. As great as Steph is he still going to be great next year? Yes. Are they going to be the same kind of team and have the same kind of issues that they're going to have to deal with in terms of trying to make sure they don't have injuries? They're going to have to deal with that as you have older players. And that's the one thing I worry about the Golden State Warriors, because I think Klay Thompson's going to be terrific again. But we still don't know him rebounding from back-to-back injury that took away 2 seasons from him. Draymond Green had injury issues as well. We saw Steph Curry had that. As you get older, all of a sudden your body doesn't bounce back as well. And with a league that continues to get younger and better and faster, as great as Golden State is, I can see 2 in 4 years, but that's their ceiling. But don't be surprised they only get 1 in the next 4 years. But 3, I think that's dreamland for Draymond.
When the Warriors were flying from San Francisco to Boston for Game 6, when they thought they had a chance to clinch, Bob Myers comes up on the plane, and Draymond, Steph, and Klay Thompson all sitting together. They've always sat together. They sat together for a decade. And Bob Myers says to them, do you know how rare this is? Do you know how rare it is for stars to hang out with each other and like each other after 10 years in the NBA? And it is. It's very rare. It's also rare because it's hard to keep guys together who make that much money. In the modern day and age, with the design that they put in with the luxury tax after the Heat were put together, it's very hard. So in addition to these guys being willing to stay together and work through their issues and be a true team, the fact that the Warriors ownership has demonstrated that they are going to pay. They paid $350 million for this team, including tax this year. In the next couple of years, that could go to $400. It might even push $500. And do you know how they're doing it? People don't talk about this. They sold 5% of the team. A year ago, they sold 5% of the team. They got a ton of money for it.
They made a fortune.
Yeah. They got a ton of money for it so that they could fund the rest of Steph Curry's prime.
Wow.
And so
they gave up 5% ownership of the team.
5% of the equity that that you can't get back, okay?
Yep.
That doesn't happen in ownership. Can you imagine if Jerry Reinsdorf sold 5% of the team to keep? I know that
he didn't pay Pippen, so yeah, he was never going to.
I know that team broke up. I know that team broke up for other reasons. I'm not just saying it was about money. However, it's the combination of all those things. I don't know how many they're going to win. They may not win another one, but their window is open, and Draymond can say that, and nobody can say that's impossible because they get together and because they have funded the organization.
Right.
And those 2 things are what's going to keep that window open.
100%. I just think they were a little lucky. Morant misses a layup and he gets hurt. They didn't have to deal with Phoenix and home court. And, Dallas was not a great team. It was a one-man team. And the Celtics were a first-time entry into the NBA Finals. So I got to look at how they didn't dominate. This is not a team that won every playoff series in 4 games.
True.
They could have lost to Memphis. Celtics gave them a good hassle. Dallas, was in the mix there in game 2. So I got to be, and Murray didn't play. So I'm going to look at it from a standpoint, excellent point. They stay together. They love each other. The ownership will do what they have to do. But you also got to look at the path. They got some breaks in the path this year. You can't count on that on a year-in, year-out basis.
And how many times we've seen with teams like the Golden State Warriors that they clearly understand that. But that's why they were so petty at the press conference, because they went through the injury thing and people are throwing dirt on their chances to win an NBA title. So that, like I said earlier this week, that was the most petty championship parade I've ever seen in my life. They were naming names, naming receipts. They were like the old man at the family reunion that held the grudge from church way back when with Aunt Martha. That was Golden State saying, I see you, I see you, I see you, I see you. But the question is, they can hold receipts, but now people are going to do the same thing, because I guarantee Memphis has not forgotten. Phoenix has not forgotten. Dallas hasn't forgotten. And for damn sure, the Boston Celtics haven't forgotten, because Boston looked them in the face and said, we had you 2-1. But then Golden State beat them at their own game. They outbullied the Boston Celtics mentally and physically. Don't think that other teams are not paying attention. I said, we want to be as petty as you. That makes it an even harder road for Golden State in 2022 and 2023.
They already are being petty, right? They're on Twitter chirping back, ready for next season, all that.
Winners go to spoils. You got to let them do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You don't like it, beat them.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
You're leaving us.
Oh. It's been fun.
Where's he going? He's been doing all day.
It's a real pleasure to work
very sad.
with Freddie Coleman and Mad Dog Russo. And, of course, you. But we work together all the time.
Like, are you going to keep?
We work together all the time.
Me and Wendy were on the road together. It was a grand old time. Bye, Wendy. We'll see you later.
All right.
Bye, brother.
Coming up, you don't want to miss this list of best NFL rosters.
The clock runs out. If you're thinking about everything he's going to be doing this offseason to try to improve, you don't think that's going to be seared into his brain? I mean, elite quarterbacks, the upper echelon of quarterbacks is not just guys who have all the physical tools, it's the mental part of the game too. They were down 23-7 at halftime. They were awful. And it wasn't just him. 14 penalties for 89 yards is trash. That is not a good football team at the peak of competition. Now, do I think that those things are going to carry over? You'd like to think that those are like the sort of things that you work on in the offseason. But for Dak Prescott, I have to wonder, too, just about the in-between-the-ears thing with that moment. Like, how do you make sure that doesn't happen again? Because that, for a lot of people, is going to be what determines what class of category you put him in, of quarterback you put him in.
I remember a certain quarterback on a Thursday night in Chicago that forgot what down it was and held up 4 fingers. Remember who that was? That was Tom Brady. Things happen, and we're not calling Tom Brady overrated. Things happen in football. What I'm telling you is, in a team sport, that is so built around the quarterback position, when you look at the top 32 quarterbacks in this league, you'd be hard-pressed to tell me that Dak Prescott does not belong in the top 10. Now, I get it. He hasn't always come up big in the biggest moments. And guess what? A lot of guys didn't do that till later in their career. We're getting really flabbergasted about what's happening now with Josh Allen and Murray and Mahomes, because they're doing it so young in the first 2 or 3 years of their career. But Dak Prescott, his talent, how he's played, what he's come up with in key moments, Mad Dog and Courtney, I think we're selling him a little bit short when it comes to where he is and where he should be based on some individual errors or individual performances that he's had.
Booger, Brady won 6 Super Bowls. We're going to bring up a play in Chicago when he didn't know that he screwed it up.
We're bringing up a play We're bringing up one play for Dak Prescott against in the playoffs. So if you can bring up one, I can too.
I understand that, but I mean, Brady had won 6 before he made the mistake. Prescott hasn't won any. He hasn't won anything. And I don't know, you can't tell me he's a top 10 quarterback. The quarterbacks in the AFC West are better. Rodgers is better. Lamar Jackson's better. Burrow's better. Brady's better. I haven't started here. I will guarantee it that I will come up with 10 quarterbacks better than Prescott. And listen, I'm not saying that the report card is complete, because he has a chance to, raise the level and win some playoff games, and McCarthy's not Tom Landry. We understand that. But I don't know how in the world we can sit there and say that Dak Prescott's a big-time player at the position. There's no evidence of that. Boog. And you know more football. You played it. You know more football than I do. There is no evidence that Prescott, where is it shown in his career that he is a big-time NFL quarterback? Show me the games.
I just showed you one. Opening night against Brady on the field, Dak Prescott was the best player on the field. Now, I understand you're up in New York and maybe the internet's not working. I will email you a clip of the game and you can watch the game, okay?
It's still lost. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad we have a little bit. We have like 1 minute for this conversation, Booger. I'm going to start with you on this one. Do we think that this is the year that the Cowboys win a playoff game?
Well, I mean, based on what I've just said, I think the Cowboys are going to win the East. I think the Cowboys are going to win a playoff game this year. And based on what the two fine analysts on the panel have said next to you, one Mad Dog and one Courtney Cronin, I would have to think that they think that the Cowboys are going to suck this season.
I don't think that. Do I think they're going to win a playoff game? I would really like to think that all of the clock management, all the stuff that we've criticized Mike McCarthy for previously, now that it's reared its head to the point where you've got Jerry Jones, like, irate after that game, that those sorts of things are going to get corrected. And plus, 14 penalties. I'm going to keep bringing that up from that first-round game. That was terrible.
Randy Gregory offside 3,000 times.
You're not going to have that happen again in that game. So, no, I do think they will win a playoff game this year. I've never said anything contrary.
They will, because the NFC, Booker and I agree on the NFC East. I think I just killed Hurts, so I can't. Somebody has to win it. So I'll let Dallas win it. And the conference isn't very good. Not a lot of good teams.
Right.
So I think they should.
Two good teams.
Tampa, Green Bay, and the Rams. Everybody else is not that good. They get a home game.